Couple more minutes here. Okay, probably got to get started here. We got a kind of a long act to talk through on Romeo and Juliet. Oh, there's one other person. Good. Okay, so grammar lesson 5, due last night. That's been checked. I will post a key later today for your reference. Vocab. So we got vocab lesson 2 test. That's going to drop tomorrow morning. So we're going to do it like we did last time. Let's try to really be on top of this so I can give you full credit. That's the way we're doing it. Most of you were. Okay, so it'll drop sometime like 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. There's another person, and you do the test sometime tomorrow. Okay, don't put it off until later. I don't want you to have to do a test on a Friday night. Get it done during the school day. And then hopefully if we see just about everybody has that in, I will post that key on Saturday. I want you to be able to look back and then actually, I've got to see that you're doing, you know me, I'm not, all this PDF stuff, I'm not fussy about how you get it done as long as I can see that you have done the work, okay? So let me see that you have completed the test sometime tomorrow, and let me see very clearly that you have made corrections. If you happen to have gotten them all right, which happens sometimes, but not really too often, then put something very clear at the top of the test, 20 out of 20 or 25 out of 25, minus 0, 100%, and that's fine. That's great. That will happen. Okay, and that needs to be done, by Sunday night. Okay, so you shouldn't have to do anything theoretically Friday night or Saturday or anything like that. Get the test done tomorrow. Corrections done by Sunday night. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Writing, I'm still finishing grading the outlines. I probably will have those done maybe possibly by the end of today. So maybe we can talk about that tomorrow and set a schedule and deadline and get materials up for the what we'll call semifinal draft in honors. Okay, All for Love unit, Romeo and Juliet Act 2. That was due last night. That has been checked. We're going to review in class. So if you guys could dig into your responses to those questions so we can we got a really big opportunity for participation today. And I'll be totaling participation I'll be updating participation and reporting progress report grades before I leave today, just to let you know. I know progress report grades are not a permanent grade or necessarily really important, but a lot of your parents might be looking to see how you're doing if they don't look and check over your shoulder often, as I'm sure some of them do. And if you want your grade to look as good as possible, let's make sure both to participate and if you have any homeworks, that are, somewhat fairly recently that you're making up and emailing me, you got to email me and say, hey, I did this, and then I will definitely get it in. Okay, so not a note in Google Classroom, but an email to me, and that way I can get one email that says, hey, I did this, 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 and this, and I can check it. Can't go back and check every single assignment all quarter. Okay, and it's honors English. We should just be keeping up, so let's try to do that first and foremost. Okay, let me go to. Okay, one other tab here. Here we go. Now, again, it's kind of difficult for me to juggle windows. So if you could just kind of speak up and say, hey, I got this. I can answer that, Mr. Cooney, or something like that. And then your block will pop up in my partial grid, and I can have you respond. Okay, so Act 2, we got 6 scenes to talk about here. There's a lot of reading. So I hope we're keeping up and got through it. Most people are telling me that the No Fear Shakespeare is helping a lot. Okay, so I've got the text up here. It might be a little small for you, but hopefully that's good. And if you guys could have your assignment up, hopefully you have some quotes you can share with us for parts of those answers. All right, so scene one. What is Mercutio saying? Okay, so this is the morning after the party, right? And they're still kind of wandering around. They haven't been to bed or anything. We're still in the same 24 hours right now. The end of the same night or the morning after. Who knows what time it is? But what's Mercutio saying in these lines here? Basically right here, right? Romeo, humors, madman, passion lover, and all this stuff. What's he going on about there? Somebody tell me. And what's his tone? Remember, you got to unmute and speak up. Now, come on, guys. I can make a video of myself and record it, just like reading through all the answers, but that's not very interesting. I don't want you to have to watch that. I want to hear from you, and I want to give you credit. Number one.
He's trying. Mercutio is basically trying to like say things about Rosaline to try to get like Romeo to come back, I guess, kind of. That's what I put. I'm not sure.
So what do you think is his tone? Like how is he? I mean, Romeo's not right there, right? So he's kind of talking about, almost acting like he's talking to Romeo, even though Romeo took off on him, right? He gave him the slip, right? But
yeah.
So he's kind of being how toward him, even though he's not talking directly to him. Like, can we put it?
Kind of like jokingly.
Yeah, joking, a little bit mean, but in a friendly way. He's smack talking Romeo behind his back, saying, "Oh, he gave us the slip, the counterfeit. He took off, right? You know, it's just like smack talking your friend, to your other friends." Okay, dramatic irony in lines 17 through 21. I conjure thee by Rosaline's bright eyes, her high forehead, her scarlet lip, by her fine foot, straight leg, quivering thigh. You hear him joking around. What's the dramatic irony there? If you're looking over those Quizlet terms, dramatic irony is when we understand something that the characters who are talking do not. What do we know that Mercutio does not know at this point? Well,
so I put the dramatic irony in these lines is that he is saying all these things about Rosaline and how great she is, but what he doesn't know is that Romeo doesn't really want her anymore and he's not interested. He's more focused on Juliet now, so he no longer feels and loves all those things about Rosaline.
Right. Because like 6 months have gone by. He's over Rosaline now. Oh, wait, no, it's just 6 hours, right? Or maybe 6 minutes. It's all it took for him to forget about Rosaline. Very good. Thank you, Ella. So we know that he's interested in Juliet suddenly. And of course, how would they know any differently? They didn't see this going on. It was off to the side and they left and he didn't come with them. Okay, that takes us right up into scene 2. And the first question here, so we switch over to back at the Capulet house, and Romeo says to himself he jests at scars that never felt a wound, kind of indicating that Mercutio maybe has never been through the pain of love, right? And we get that kind of inferential, feeling about Mercutio that, maybe he hasn't had much success with that in his life, and that's why he's so harsh on Romeo. But the first question is Juliet on the balcony outside her bedroom, but cannot hear the words that Romeo says to himself as he looks from under the hiding place below. Okay, so Juliet this is you realize this is like the most famous scene in any play ever written in the history of the English language. Like, in all seriousness, it's the balcony scene of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so I don't know whether you realize that. Just thought I'd point that out. So there's something about it, that makes people remember. So anyway, she's up on this balcony. Talk about dramatic irony. He is below. She is talking to herself eventually about Romeo. Romeo is listening and she doesn't know he's there. So there's huge dramatic irony the whole time. And of course, when she discovers that, she's going to be kind of embarrassed, right? What if you were by yourself speaking out, which we wouldn't do in reality, right? But it's kind of a non-realistic convention of Shakespearean dramas that people are going to have monologues and talk to themselves, because in a live play, that's the only way that we know what's going on in someone's head, right? That's why we have monologues and then sometimes soliloquies when a character is literally on stage by him or herself and talking like that. So anyway, Romeo repeats the light and dark images he introduced when he saw Juliet for the first time. Why does he compare Juliet to the sun? I'll kind of cover some of these. Yeah, because he feels like she's so beautiful and she's like rising over the horizon in that balcony up there, right? Why does he want the sun to kill the envious moon? Because he wants, it's like Juliet, like is, you know, it is the east and Juliet is the sun, right? Do you recognize some of those lines? You know, oh soft, what yonder light and window breaks, it is the east and Juliet is the sun. Has anybody ever heard those words before? Sound kind of vaguely familiar? I see about half of you nodding. Okay, yeah. Some of the most famous lines ever. And the moon is envious of the beauty of Juliet and the sun, right? It's kind of an extended metaphor that keeps going there. He also compares Juliet's eyes to the stars. And that comparison is kind of an example of foreshadow. I don't know what I'd call it foreshadow. It's kind of a weird way to put the question, but it connects to something else. Because Romeo and Juliet from the very beginning are described in what way in reference to stars? Who remembers that from the chorus at the beginning of Act 1? What kind of lovers are they? Having to do with stars?
Star-crossed lovers.
Yes. Was that Kaylee?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Kaylee. Yeah, they're star-crossed lovers, which means from an astrological perspective, you know, and that superstitious perspective that a lot of people would have believed in, that their constellations were having to do with their births would have been crossed, right? And that's bad, and that indicates like a bad fate or people that shouldn't be together. Okay, so to compare her to stars is kind of a amusing, dramatically ironic comparison. Okay, back to number 2. Lines 33 through 36, what is Juliet asking? I'll kind of go through the pages here. Okay. Other extremely famous lines here, right? Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Now, you can't tell me that you've never heard those words before. Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. So much is said in those lines. Now, what's kind of amusing about her saying that is because she's acting like she's speaking to Romeo, but she's not meaning to speak to Romeo, but she accidentally, unwittingly is, because he's down there right below on the balcony and he's hearing what she's saying, which is why he says to himself, aside, right? Which means not actually speaking to her. Shall I hear more or shall I speak at this? Like, I feel kind of bad that I'm sitting here listening to her speak about me, and I'm secretly listening to her. That, you know, what would you do? Would you reveal yourself and say, hey, I'm here, you're embarrassing yourself? Or would you just let her keep talking? You'd probably let her keep talking, right? Because you want to, or him, if the roles were reversed, you want, someone's talking about you, of course you want to hear that, right? It's like human nature. So he stays hidden for now, right? But what does that mean? You guys tell me. Even if she's not asking it directly to him, what does she wish that he could do? And it almost seems to be asking him if he could do. Let's hear from some of the rest of you. Thanks, Madeline. Go ahead.
Like, she's asking him to change his name and not be a Montague.
Right. And is that possible?
Not really.
Yeah, it's like a rhetorical question, right? But it's almost like philosophical, right? Like what, you know, how much are we defined by where we come from, what our name is, you know, what neighborhood we grow up in, anything like that. And she's saying that, you know, human beings shouldn't have to be defined by their name or what they are or where they came from. They should be able to be their own individuals. And she's frustrated, right? It's like, please, can't you just deny your father and refuse your name? Or if you can't, you know, be sworn to my love, and if you promise me your love, I'll figure out a way to no longer be a Capulet. But they can't, right? And especially then, family was everything, right? That's what they had. Okay, next question is looking closely at lines 38 through 49. What does Juliet say about names? Okay, it's kind of continuing with the same thought, right? 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy, not you. Thou art thyself. Now, don't be confused by all these thou and thy. All it means is you, okay? It's just archaic, what we call archaic pronouns. So, 'tis but your name that is my enemy. You are yourself, though not a Montague. What's a Montague? You know, what is a Montague? It's not a hand, a foot, or arm, or face, or any part belonging to a man. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called. In other words, if there was some other word that described what a rose would be, it wouldn't change the fact that the rose is beautiful and valuable, right? So you could put another name on anything else. You know, what does it even mean? What's in a name? It's another philosophical question, right? In her frustration over the whole situation. Okay. And we could probably infer from her attitude toward the feud that separated the two families. Of course, she's not a fan of it. She doesn't like it, right? Because it's keeping her from being with the person that she at least thinks that she is in love with. All right, Juliet's feelings of embarrassment, 85. It's 105. I have to kind of skip forward a couple pages here. So Romeo eventually jumps out, right? Lets her know that she's there. Now, how would you feel if you were Juliet? You know, using your imagination. It's hard to imagine actually talking about someone from a balcony while they're not there. Maybe not hugely relatable. None of you would ever sneak out and knock on someone's window in another house, of course. Someone you'd met, right? You would never do anything like that. Of course not. Okay. Juliet's feelings of embarrassment, 85 to 105. Dost thou love me? I know you'll say yes. I take you at your word. Yet if you swear that you may prove false. Gentle Romeo, if you do love me, pronounce it faithfully. Or if you think I'm too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay, so wilt thou too, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond. So she's popping back and forth between, you know, expressing her feelings for him, but then also, what? How does she feel having said all those things? She doesn't not only feels embarrassed, she's afraid that he will think that she's too what? Are you following me? Go ahead, Ella.
It's Ella, and she doesn't want him to think that she's vulnerable. She doesn't want him to be able to like take advantage of her in any way.
Yeah, she doesn't want to seem too easily won, you know. So she's kind of lost the opportunity to play hard to get at least a little bit, right? And instead she's dumped all her feelings out before she's even heard Romeo's. Of course, he reassures her that his feelings are the same. We might question both of their feelings, but they think they mean it at least, right? And you know, and maybe they are starting to. We don't know. Not judging, just saying. Why does Juliet object to Romeo's swearing at the moon? Just to cover that myself, that's because the moon is inconstant, right? It always takes a different form, a different shape. It doesn't always seem to be itself, right? Whereas the sun mostly looks the same. Yeah, just kind of a metaphor there. Juliet's fears in 116 through 22. Let's fast forward up to that. Okay. If my heart's your love, she says, well, I do not swear. There's no joy in this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning, simile there, right? Which doth cease to be before, is what error means, before one can say it lightens. So she admits that this is a hurry, right? It's a big hurry, and it feels like something that it could, if it's so intense and it's so fast that it could go out as soon as strongly and violently as it starts, right? Like the lightning, right? Kind of makes sense, right? A lot of things in life are like that. The more intensely beautiful they are, the less time they last, right? Okay, and then what changes their mind in 143 to 148? If thy bent of love be honorable, and thy purpose marriage, what? How long have these guys known each other? They've known each other a few hours, right? Like maybe an hour. Send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my Lord, through the world. So if I send someone to you tomorrow, when you haven't been out drinking with your friends and acting all crazy and saying all this stuff, and you say then that your purpose is marriage and that it's honorable, then I'm yours. What do we think about this, folks? What do you guys think about this? So Juliet is going to send someone to Romeo on the following day for what purpose? To see if he really means, I want to marry you, right? Any opinions about this? Does it sound like totally sensible behavior to you? No.
I don't think it's totally sensible because, I mean, like you said, they only just met like 1 or 2 hours, or they only know each other like that. And I don't even think they know very much about each other other than based off their names. So, but I think it was pretty common back then for that to happen. So if I look at it now, it seems strange, but maybe back then it just was the norm for everyone to do that.
Well, it was the norm for people to maybe get married that didn't know each other for very well, but ironically, the reason that would often happen is because they were put together by families who wanted their kids to marry each other, right? So although the hurry part, like you said, might have been common in that they didn't know each other, in another way, it's almost the opposite, right? Because not only have they not been put together by families, but they're from families who despise each other. So it sounds like nothing but trouble, right? But, you know, I mean, they feel like they mean it. and maybe if it weren't for the families, maybe it could work out, right? I mean, you never know, right? You can't count on it. But we'll see. Maybe they'll make it. All right, scene 3, Friar Lawrence's cell. So we've seen how Juliet kind of has almost a surrogate mother figure in the nurse. You might notice that Romeo seems to have kind of a surrogate father. You know what I mean by surrogate? Like stand-in replacement. You know, not that he hates his parents or something, but he seems to really go talk to Friar Lawrence, right? And Friar is a type of priest, okay? So he's basically the town priest. And notice that Friar Lawrence goes on and on. He's in his herb garden, and he talks about all these different herbs and weeds and plants and how they have harmful effects or healthy effects if people take them, right? He goes, there must be some reason he's doing that, right? So let's kind of remember that. And then finally Romeo comes up, and Friar Lawrence, good morrow, father, right? And he says, therefore thy earliness doth me assure you are uproused by some distemperature. And if not so, then here I hit it right. Our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight. And we know that's true, right? He's been out all night. And he says that last is true, the sweetest rest is mine. And he asks if he was with Rosaline. And then he goes on and on about how he has met Juliet and he's in love with her. And of course, the friar is like, what the, WTF. His version of that, holy St. Francis. So what you guys say? Holy St. Francis. What it changes here is Rosaline, whom thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken. And here's the question, right? Young men's love lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Ladies, is that true? I see some nods. What's he saying about men there? What's he accusing Romeo of, and what's he maybe kind of generalizing about, possibly about men in general? Who can tell us that?
I can answer that one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mel.
He's basically just saying that men mostly fall in love with someone because of their looks.
Mm-hmm. Now, that may be true for some, it may be true for many. Certainly seems to be true for Romeo, but then when they talk and stuff, it seems so convincing, right? So who knows? But that is definitely what the friar is saying, right? Girls, you would never do that, right? You're all about personality and emotions, right? We'd like to think. All right, so crazily, even though he acknowledges like what a hurry that is and how ridiculous it is, he agrees to do it. Why? That's your second question on scene 3. He has a really idealistic motive for agreeing to do this. It's right here. Come, young waver, come, go with me. In one respect, I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love. There's your answer right there, right? He thinks what could be achieved by him marrying these two. Any men in the house today? I haven't heard a male student speak the entire conversation here. Nope. All right, go ahead, Ella. I think you were raising your hand, right?
Yeah.
Go
So his motive for marrying them was to hope to bring the two families together, that maybe the power of Juliet and Romeo's love would make them realize that they don't have to be enemies.
Mm-hmm. That gonna work?
I don't know. I assume not, because they have been enemies for so long and there's so many, there's just so much built up anger between the two families. And I don't think it'll work out well, but there can always be good and bad things that come out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It seems like a slim idealistic hope. He has good intentions, right? But we question if this feud has gone on for generations. And if he's going to do it on the sly, I mean, how would Juliet and or Romeo's parents feel about him doing that behind their backs? That's kind of sneaky, especially for a priest to do, right? Okay, tell you what, guys. I don't want to run up against the next
Cooney?
bell. Yes.
Roman said that, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but he said that he can't talk even when he's unmuted. It won't let him talk.
Oh crap! I'm sorry, Roman. No, I didn't see the chat. I was getting too involved with not able to talk even when unmuted, and you were wanting to. That's a shame. Next time that happens, I don't see it. Someone tell me. And remember, you can always put in the chat. Roman, if you can get maybe a teacher to look at your computer, see if something, you can change the mic settings on your computer. That's probably what you need to do. Might have to do with whether or not you have a headset on. Okay. Is he in here still? I don't see him. All right. Well, anyway, we got to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to record myself screen sharing and talking through scenes 4, 5, and 6. And I will post it under the comments, where I'll also post this recording. Okay. So you guys that have already been here for this part, you can just watch that second video and that'll finish it up. We just don't have time in these half-hour classes to get through that much. Okay, so don't forget that vocab test is going to drop tomorrow morning. And otherwise, I believe I already posted the Act 3 materials also. I can't remember what deadline I set, but it's all posted. So good talk. I still want to hear from more of you, but thank you those who participated. Okay, see you tomorrow. Happy almost Friday.